Welcome everybody. I'm Jonathan Kelly, Head of Age Development for Twitch. I'm very excited to introduce you to Katie from Dentsu and Eric from Lumen. Today's session is all about the attention economy, the importance of it for brands, how brands can activate against it, and showcasing really high levels of attention within live streaming. We're particularly excited by this because Twitch, Dentsu and Lumen partnered together on this study. It's work that we've just done in December 2022 and it's across the US and the UK. And we're going to be sharing that. But before we go into the findings, it'd be great, Katie, if you could share your experience in the attention economy, what Dentsu are doing in this space.
So yeah, I guess we've been kind of heavily invested in this space for the last 5 years. That's when we launched our own multi-year research program, which we actually called the Attention Economy. And yeah, I guess since then we've kind of been committed to that journey of kind of learning through research and then applying those findings and developing out products to help us, action on those insights and, deliver greater effectiveness for our clients.
And how are you partnering with Lumen? Eric, it would be great to sort of see how you partner with Dentsu.
A bit of everything, to be honest. We obviously do research like this all the time to understand how attention works across platforms where we don't have that information, but we also work incredibly closely on trying to bring this and link it into actual outcomes through impression level, actually measuring how much attention you're going to get per impression served. And again, yes, it's a partnership that's been going for these full 5 years, and we couldn't be closer.
Yeah, so Dentsu had their 5 years of celebrating attention. I think you guys are really ahead of the marketplace in that sense, and it's fantastic to see that we've reached that stage. And attention is still like a hot topic. Why do you think that agencies and advertisers are suddenly paying more attention to attention metrics?
I guess we have always been really interested in attention, and in fact, like in our sort of macro channel planning tool at Dentsu, CSS Planner, we have always been accounting for attention. We've always known it's important. It's just that the technologies now that are out there, which Lumen look after, now means we're able to kind of, observe that attention and at scale. So previously we was relying on claimed behaviour, and obviously now we can replace that with the amazing observed attention data that Lumen have.
And so what does that mean for advertisers at the moment? What are the opportunities that exist?
So mine, other than the fact that you can actually measure things apples to apples in a way that you kind of have tried to do before, but you haven't really been able to. Like, it's quite new to actually be able to say, here's how cinema performs on attention versus Twitch versus an IB banner ad. But I think right now, the real opportunity is in attention arbitrage, which is I'm trying to get that out as a term. It's about the fact that not everything, in our view, is correctly valued at the minute. There are some channels which are cheaper than the attention they give you, and some that are probably more expensive. So if you jump on board now, before everyone, and a little bit after Dentsu, you can basically make a bit of money and have better outcomes for your clients for cheaper. And that's not going to exist forever. So, the pressure's on.
And what about the markets or the countries that are doing particularly well in attention? We're doing this study with the US and the UK. We're rolling out across Japan, Australia, Germany, Spain, etc. Are there kind of geos that you think are particularly successful, that really stand out, are really leaning into it?
Well, I look after product in the UK, so I'm in no way biased when I say it's the UK. But I do think we have been quite advanced. There is work going on in other markets, the US. From a Dentsu perspective, we've had studies go out in Denmark, in Japan. But yeah, I think in the UK, we did the first ever programmatic trade on attention. So I'm claiming that as being we're the most advanced.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I think that everyone is talking about it, and some people are a little bit further behind, some are further ahead. The UK is definitely at the forefront. The US is a little bit behind, which always feels nice when that happens. And then there are those sort of a couple of ad techy hubs across Europe that have always been quite good at this, that have a lot of ad tech startups. And I think, especially for Dentsu who've been forging ahead, it's the Netherlands and Denmark are doing a lot of interesting stuff at the minute as well, like the research Katie talked about.
And so what learnings do you think we can take for the UK market to roll it out to other countries? Because given I'm an EMEA-based role, I want to do it in as many countries as possible, particularly EU5. Yeah. What are the things that really stand out to you that the UK are doing?
I guess it's sort of like the role of the agency for us to help clients become comfortable with almost this new measure. So it's like a natural evolution on from viewability, but at this moment in time, viewability and view-through rates is what everyone's really comfortable with. So I guess it's just a lot of work going into talking about that, showing the research and the evidence, and the fact that attention is like a 6 times better predictor of outcomes, for example, than viewability. So.
Yeah, and I think what other countries can get out of it is that we've done the hard work already, starting in the UK, and we have, consistently through our research, we have found that, people are people, eyeballs are eyeballs, and there is not a tremendous amount of difference between different countries. If you believe otherwise, come talk to me. We're happy to do some research, but we've commissioned studies specifically to test that. So yeah, we can take what we've learned here and start using it pretty much anywhere today to do all the stuff that we've been talking about.
So good attention is basically good attention. Doesn't matter the country. Okay, great. And so part of our study was 600 respondents in the US and UK, mid-roll and pre-roll. We've got this ad funnel here. Katie, it'd be great if you could talk through the ad funnel, how advertisers are moving through it and what it means.
Yeah, so I guess this sort of pertains to what I touched on earlier in that, we're, in the past we were sort of delivering reach and we were looking at what's the financial cost of delivering that reach. Then over time, there's been this explosion of ad inventory, and we kind of inherently knew that almost like the meaning of reach had sort of become diluted over time. So then obviously we had viewability metrics, but now we know through the powers of this wonderful eye tracking research that, not everything that is viewable is viewed. And I think the really shocking stat is, like 89% of desktop displays simply isn't looked at. And then that's when you hope that, viewability metrics are kind of stepping in and helping you out. But actually it's then 81% of those ads still aren't looked at. So I guess this funnel is kind of helping us, with what's delivered, what's viewable of that portion, what is actually viewed, and for how long. And for us as kind of Dentsu, we sort of have an extra sort of twist on that. So because we've been in this space for a while, we know attention is a great equalizer. However, what we've also seen is that the power of attention also varies in those different sets of circumstances. So that's why there's sort of that extra little piece on the end of that funnel, I should be pointing up here, that says effective attention, which is kind of a little Dentsu extra.
Yeah. And I think, I see this funnel all the time, of course, but there's a few things here that are actually really interesting. One is, it's not rocket science. These calculations are pretty simple because we believe in, being transparent and being open with all this. It is just how many people looked at your ad times how long did they look at it for, times 1,000, because everything in advertising happens in thousands. But it's simple. You can do it yourself, and that's the one number that we talk about, attention per mil, which is the attention that you get for every 1,000 impressions. That's the one number that I think that you can apply across everything to have that real apples to apples comparison, which is probably being ex-agency myself, being ex-Dentsu myself. I know how important that is and how difficult it has been, and how viewability has kind of been a stopgap metric that we can now kind of, we'll keep it, but let's focus on attention instead.
And do you think that all brands should care about attention? Because if, for example, Coca-Cola is a big brand, you can recognize it straight away. They might think that they've got a high market share versus maybe a new entrant into the drinks market. They might have a different perspective. Should all brands care about attention?
Yeah, I think in short, everybody should care, but then there's a lot of nuance within that. So I guess, first of all, you don't want to be buying that 89% that isn't looked at. That just feels like that's not going to be helpful. So almost we can use that to sort of cut the wheat from the chaff, as it were, in the first instance. But then the level of attention that you need and kind of strategizing around pricing, etc., I guess that's again when the role of the agency comes in to help establish what is your attention strategy, what level of attention is kind of going to be good and right for you.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm going to say everyone should care, but everyone should care because if you don't care about attention, almost what's the point of advertising? You know, even before, I've heard a few other speakers over the course of this week talk about this. It's not new. We've always been trying to get, you know, right message, right person, right time, all of that stuff. This is just a better way of doing it. And it's just you can still do all the really good stuff you've been doing as an advertiser, just with more information about who is actually looking at it. And, you know, the things you said about, you know, Coca-Cola versus, you know, Prime, which is the new one, lots of word of mouth and all that. Maybe they need different amounts of attention, but everybody needs some. You know, the 89% or whatever you said, no one is going to benefit from never having seen it, no matter who they are.
And so what about good levels of attention? Is that an important metric to get high levels?
I mean, generally, we would say what we've seen from our research is that more generally is better. So to Eric's earlier point, if pricing is the same, and often in the programmatic world, actually there's not necessarily a huge amount of difference, then why not buy, whilst you can, more attention for the same price? As you know, more people adopt an attention strategy, you know, we probably will see there'll be, you know, market shifts and in that sort of supply and demand. And so I guess when pricing changes, that's when we might start to strategize more. So to your point, you know, if it's a Coca-Cola, you know, and the ad itself has already been, you know, the audience has been primed for it already. Actually, can we buy some of that cheaper inventory and that's still going to do the job at, you know, making the ad resonate? You know, other brands are going to, you know, lesser known brands might need more.
Yeah, and for me, it comes back to, there's almost two things here. One is the hygiene factor, which I was just sort of talking about, which is everyone needs some amount of attention, no matter what it is. Past that, you know, I'm not claiming that attention is going to be the silver bullet. There are so many other things that you need to layer into it that agencies, again, have been trying to do for a long time. What job are you trying to do? Are your ads on the channel that will let you do that? You know, do you have enough with the poster? Do you need that 30-second, you know, Christmas John Lewis? It's always John Lewis, isn't it? Ad and just again having that layer of information about what attention you're getting will let you do every part of that better.
And in terms of the results for Twitch, there were fantastic results from an attention perspective. Double the Lumen norms for both mobile and desktop. And then for desktop, it was 4 times the Lumen norm. So a really good case for Twitch on the attention side of things.
Yeah.
How should brands start thinking about Twitch when it comes to attention?
Really good question. I guess we shouldn't bucket things up, but we tend to. And I guess with Twitch, with the levels of attention that you're seeing, and also, you know, the power of that attention in terms of the linking to outcomes that we've seen from the study, I think we would more kind of bucket it towards TV, really. Yeah. Eric, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, you know, every campaign you analyze it individually and you say what level of attention you need and all that. But we've started talking about things like the shape of attention, which is that there are certain channels that do just give you more attention, and they tend to be, you know, pricier, but the attention that you're getting for it is still a value exchange. And that is things like, you know, we would say TV, cinema are sort of on the extreme spectrum, where you have the time to tell that story. And then you have more of the online where you have to think a bit more like a poster. You know, most people aren't going to see most of it. So think about how you create it so that the brand is always visible, and, you know, all the stuff that we've been talking about for ages with continuity planning and Byron Sharp and all that kind of stuff.
Twitch is a live environment, heavily based on the community. Do you think that high-level cultural moments impact attention? So, for example, major sporting events, live streams versus traditional viewing. Do you see any sort of differences there?
Really interesting question. I guess for us, with our sort of attention economy program, I guess we see it as a journey, and we're continuing to chip away at the things that we don't know. Once we know those things, we can apply them to what we're doing. And I would say that is something we definitely should dig into more. I mean, certainly the attention levels were really strong, and the attention was very powerful. So what is underpinning that? It would be fabulous to kind of find out. And I know there's also high proportions of solo viewing with Twitch, and it could be that could be part of what's driving that. That's something we've seen in previous TV studies. So, but yeah, would love to learn and do more together on that.
Definitely.
If you'd like to.
Yeah, very interested.
Yeah, and we're always happy to do the research, of course. Generally, I don't think we've dug into it in that sense, and I would love to. There's so many angles which you can cut attention, by context, by whatever, that I really want to dig into. We have done a bit of research in things like seasonality. So we know, for example, that surprisingly, people pay more attention to ads during Christmas. So we know that there are external factors that affect attention outside of audience, platform, channel, all these things. And it's just a matter of teasing them out with the right research.
And great attention is great, is wonderful, but we want to make sure that it's driving brand recall. And so here again, Twitch excels. This research is excellent for us, so thank you. And in terms of brand recall, 55% versus 45% our nearest competitor. How do you think that agencies and brands can integrate into this media campaigns and planning tools and systems?
Well, I love that we have these benchmark norms, because that can get integrated into our macro channel planning tools. We're doing that as an agency, and I'm sure the other agencies are doing that as well. I get most excited about the in-campaign application of this. So, that's our benchmark norm, but within a campaign, we can work with Lumen, and at Dentsu we have Dentsu Effective Attention powered by Lumen, to apply that to the campaign to actually see the attention that we're getting to that particular campaign, and we can use that to then optimise and do better. So within an average, there's of course always a spectrum, so it's great, to understand that at a campaign level.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And beyond just being, testing things live, which is really important because every brand is unique and everything like that. If you're a brand, talk to your agency about how you can integrate this into your planning tools like Dentsu's already done, because there's a really beautiful red thread you can get through when the planning team and the activation team aren't clashing with each other over what is the valuable channels. And if you are an agency and you haven't done it, talk to us instead, I guess.
And are there particular brands that are using attention data to great effect? Do you see any examples of?
Yeah, I think we've, and globally, got quite a few clients. Everybody has been tentative, as I say, because it is a new thing to sort of get comfortable with. But yeah, I guess just to name a few, who have we had? Kellogg's, Heinz, Camelot, Mercure.
I'll be
I feel bad for any clients I haven't referenced. They're all wonderful.
What about the impact of the creative? Because sometimes from putting in place a sort of a standard to trade on, kind of people get nervous around the creative itself. What role does that play in driving attention?
We saw from our study, creative is still the biggest driver on the effect of that attention. So not necessarily the attention paid, but the value of that attention. And so that was something we were keen to see how we could sort of integrate that and do better with our activation. So one of the things we can do is work with Lumen to do what we call a creative pre-test, which is like a micro eye tracking study, and that enables us to see the average attention paid and how that correlates to the outcome. And then we can actually factor that into our in-campaign measurements, so we're being more accurate with the predictions that we're making about that campaign.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I mean, creative is very important. When we run research like this, we try to control for creative to basically say, what is the effect of the channel and not of the creative. So we run a bunch of different ones. So this is sort of an aggregated average of that. But within that, because we've run all this, you can find some really interesting things. Like here, for example, we had, for Twitch, we had a series of different ads where some of them were standard that you might run on every live stream or every online video channel. and some were bespoke to the audience. There were things that looked like games, things that there's been a lot of them. I think Corsadil, for example, did some, and the effect is incredible. Not just on attention, but also on outcomes, that they do even better than the great numbers we're seeing at the average.
That's great. And I think that using our brand partnership studio to create those ads has been really valuable. And one of the things that we would like to also share is the cost impact. And so we've had great attention, we've had great brand recall, and Twitch is not the cheapest because you'd expect to get that from excellent inventory. But in terms of comparatively, we kind of see ourselves against TV. How do you think that advertisers should take this information and put it into their planning tools and systems? How do we compare us against long form or short term content?
I guess, yeah, we're using the Lumen measure with a Dentsu twist to help us. We should never look at just one thing in isolation. So it's not just the volume of attention, it's not just the value of it. We also need to, calibrate that with cost, as you've done there. Another thing we're doing is calibrating it with carbon cost as well now. So that's something we're progressing in that direction. So yeah, I guess it's always considering a multitude of different factors. I guess to Eric's point earlier, so we're never throwing the baby out with the bathwater and just going, this is the new thing. It's let's still think about what all these different channels can deliver and how we use them in the right way.
Yeah, and that again, the best way is to get it integrated into the planning system, because planning systems are dense and rich tools that look at so many different things. And when you layer attention onto it, you get slides like these, which are really interesting. But you don't have to. There's information that you have as a brand or agency or whoever that we don't have. We can supply the attention to you, and you can do stuff like this. You can overlay your own cost, and suddenly you have a story which is customized to yourself. And then, of course, we can happily pick up the thread and help you activate on that and optimize towards not just getting the most attention, but actually, through custom algorithms or PMPs or all the kinds of solutions that we offer, we can basically make sure that you're getting the most value for your attention money, something like that.
I would assume then that high attention inventory will be in high demand and therefore putting the prices up, because for us, in this case, I think we're the fourth most effective. You would think that the highest attention, the highest brand recall, we should be putting our prices up. Do you think that people should be saying, well, pile into high attention, or what's the
Well, I do think the dynamics will shift at some stage, and then perhaps we'll see a change in pricing, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the attention arbitrage thing, by all means, trademark. But I think most importantly, it kind of comes back to, I think, yes, premium inventories should be expensive, and cheap stuff should either be dirt cheap or not exist. As a personal user of the internet, and as a person being exposed to advertising, I really do believe that this is going to lead to, I really hope it'll lead to a better ecosystem where we get fewer, better, more attention-grabbing ads and less, sites with 50 ads thrown onto them because we're just measuring viewability. So, charge away.
Great. Conscious we've got 50 seconds left, and I've still got lots of questions.
Powerful 50 seconds.
So, what's next for the attention economy? What innovations are you working on at the moment?
I guess, in short, more research. We're looking at other markets, we're looking at other channels, other formats. So yeah, I guess describing it as that chipping away at all the things that we still don't know. So we're very much committed to that journey, and everything that we find out goes into our planning tools and goes into our predictive model, so that we have that really important in-campaign measurement.
Right.
Yeah, the in-campaign thing is where I see the real thing happening here, of actually being able to take this really good research and do something with it, linking attention straight to outcomes, just straight away, in a dashboard, is going to make it so much easier to actually do things with this.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed the session, learned a lot, and I think the main message is the higher the attention, the better, right? And that drives the most results. So try and think about how we get as much eyeballs as possible, thinking about and considering their brands. So great, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.